Good morning. And a beautiful morning it is. Have a really good, yeah, what a great thing to be here sitting with you guys. And you come to join the second part of the Secrets of Breath Holding webinar. So fantastic. Welcome. Now you've come back with your seed of intention, this clarity around what you're bringing into the world, what your gift is, what you're offering, what's the next step. And it could be like somebody was saying yesterday, a meta life goal. It could be a big thing like a purpose of your life, or it could be, and or it could be the next step. And sometimes I think just the next step is really key, because that helps you to understand how powerful it is to focus the mind and to bring this from a state of dream and imagination, and how to weave that into your life through appropriate action and taking those steps. So breath is crucial to this. Breath is life. How you breathe is how you live. How we live depends on the effects on how we breathe. And so much information is flowing from the body up to the brain. And that changes the way the brain sees and perceives and senses the world. So when we do conscious breath work, one of the many, many things that are going on in that is we're shifting the state and the place from which we see. And when we see the world differently, we can behave differently. If our body has got emotional debris hanging around from difficult interactions, from difficult circumstances and situations, if we're living in a place of stress and there's lots of stress, tightening, difficulty in the system, in the body, yeah, then that's going to change the way the brain sees the next thing that's happening in the world. So we can keep greater clarity regardless of the context with breath holding and with conscious breath work. And that's one of the things we're doing. There's so many more elements to this, of course, but that's part of it. So you've come back with your seed of intention. You've got your symbol, yeah. You've got your body position that you can work with and hold. Okay, I recommend using the hands, but you could do another one. So you've got something there you can work with in the breath holding. So yesterday we covered a little bit about belly breathing and getting the belly relaxed in the breath, because that is so important in terms of finding relaxation in the system. Yeah, there are breathwork systems which go straight to the fireworks, as I call it. They're kind of explosive, expansive, wide open states that can occur. But if that's not grounded, if that's not balanced with the capacity to bring your energy down into the yin state of deep relaxation and presence, it's not going to be that helpful. It'll turn into some kind of addiction, right? So we want to get grounded and get things integrated first. So the work we did yesterday was doing that. So carry that work with you into the next phase. But right now we're going to go straight into some breath work. All right. So we're going to do a practice that is going to enable you, first of all, just to come into the belly breath. And then we're going to do a second practice straight from that one into beginning to work with longer breath holding. Are you ready? So get yourself really comfortable. Excuse me. Get yourself really comfortable. Sit down in any way that allows you to be erect and tall in the spine, the head above the heart above the belly above the pelvis. Yeah. And the knees dropped as low as they'll go. So sit up on a cushion or a block or something if you need to, or a stool, or even a chair. Yeah? Sit in any way that enables you to feel tall and comfortable in the spine. And again, close your eyes for this practice. Some practices we work with eyes open, there's some with eyes closed. Yeah? And again, what we're doing here with the eyes closed is simply shutting down the amount of visual information that comes into the brain, because that helps us to drop into a deeper, more embodied state. We can get into the intelligence of the flesh in a much more successful way that way. So just close your eyes. And if you're not comfortable with closing the eyes fully, just half drop the eyelids. So there's a little glimmer of light coming in. That's fine too. It's absolutely fine to do that too. So whichever way works best is perfect. And we're going to breathe through the nose. And we talked about little muscles here. So spread the nostrils wide here. Even if the top lip starts to flicker a little bit, eventually, remember I said you get enough control here so that doesn't happen. But if it does, it's fine. Just get that breath coming in. So lifting the breath up into the nose, up, and the breath trickles right underneath the base of the brain, up underneath the emotional brain, in fact, the limbic system, and the pituitary and the pineal glands. Breathing in And as you're breathing in, feel that belly expand. And you're going to let the belly expand and soften as much as possible. Feel the pelvic floor drop. As that's happening, you can actively do that. And then breath out. Long, slow breath out. And start to squeeze a little bit now towards the end of that breath on your way out. Squeeze it, squeeze it, squeeze it. And feel the pelvic floor lifting, and feel the base muscles of the belly squeezing in as you come in. And then softening immediately into the inhale. Straight into the inhale, full inhale. And then straight into the exhale. You start to just feel the relaxation of the exhale, the elastic relaxation. And then bring in that little squeeze of the muscles. So you're squeezing the belly muscles in to finish that exhale. And the pelvic floor lifting as well. You can pulse the pelvic floor just there a little bit. Again, that gets more subtle and clear over time. And breath in again, straight into breath in. Really good. Feel the fullness on the inhale. And then into the out breath. And now next breath, we're going to go directly into the breath hold. So we're going to hold the breath at the end of the in-breath, again, just for 4 or 5 seconds, just to get a feeling of that. At the end of the inhale with that balloon belly, hold the breath now. And then breathe out. Just take a couple of breaths without a breath hold. And constantly look for any air hunger. Notice, listen, we're going into inquiry here, into the body. So we're inquiring into what's happening, the joined upness between thought, between feeling, between the air hunger, between emotion, between how the body is. All of this is the field of inquiry that we're going into. And so next breath in, take another breath hold. And this time, hold that breath until you get those signals we talked about, the physiological signals, that tell you to breathe in. And you know that's where your edge is in terms of your carbon dioxide resilience. And we can gradually increase that over time. We talked about that. So over the next few months, you can increase that over the time. Just hold that breath now, wherever it goes to. And when you're ready, just relax into the exhale. So today we're holding the breath at the fullness of the inhale. Full peak. Again, finish the out breath. Next inhale. When you feel full with the inhale, just hold that breath again one more time. Notice how that feels. Does it feel good? Does it feel uncomfortable? If it feels good, in what way does it feel good? What are the nuances of it? And release. Beautiful. So from here, again, keep your eyes closed. What I want you to do now is at the end of the next exhale, squeeze the pelvic floor up, the front and middle of the pelvic floor a little bit if you can. So pulse the front and middle of the pelvic floor at the end of that exhale. Hold it there and then breathe in as if you were breathing from there. Let the belly expand open and then get the ribs opening. Lower ribs, upper ribs, back of the neck is still long. So you're breathing into the whole capacity of the lungs here. And that inhale feels higher in the body now rather than down in the belly. And then breathe out slowly. Long, slow out breath. Long, slow out breath. Long, slow out breath. Long, slow out breath. See how slow you can make that out breath and how long without getting into air hunger. Yeah. And again, straight into the inhale. And there should be no air hunger in the transition and no air hunger at the beginning of the in-breath. So if there's air hunger at the beginning of that in-breath, shorten the next out breath. Great. So we're constantly looking for the edge of what I call the nectar, the sweetness in the breath. constantly looking and finding that sweetness, the ease in the breath. We're not going into air hunger, we're staying out of that stress. Okay? Relaxing into the breath. Remember yesterday I talked about how important the relaxation is in this. Right? One more breath like this. One more breath like this. Nicola's asking me, when we breathe out, are we keeping the pelvic floor hold? You can keep a little bit of pelvic floor hold on that, or you can relax it completely. That's a good question, Nicola. Thank you. And on the next breath, at the end of the next breath, we're going to hold the breath in the body, the full inhale, hold the breath in the body, yeah? And see how long you can comfortably hold that before you breathe out, but make sure the out breath is relaxed as well. So that long exhale, relaxed, okay? So what we're going to do now is get a long, slow inhale, hold the breath on the inhale, so the inhale hold, long, slow exhale, and then straight into the next inhale. Tuning into your system, checking in how everything feels. By the way, I recommend keeping the tip of the tongue just behind the top teeth as well. Really good. Hold that inhale. Hold the peak of the inhale. Long, slow out breath. Spreading the nostrils super wide on the inhale. Remember to really get a sense of the nuances of that inhale. How to slow that breath. Find the nectar in the breath. The delight, peace, spaciousness. And on the next inhold, yeah, if you want to, you can repeat your seed of intention. You can plant the seed of intention into the in-breath hold. You can make that symbol visually in your mind. Focus your mind in on that. Focus your mind completely, yeah, and make the body gesture as well. Just hold it. And then gently release it and let it go on the exhale. So planting the seeds of that seed of intention into the in-breath hold. Next in-breath hold, bring your attention into the heart space. So you've got a clear sense of unity of the brain, yeah, and its function of mind awareness, and the heart and its function of heart intelligence, and the gut and its function of gut intelligence, gut feeling. So bringing those three together, and in the balance of those three, holding the breath and planting the seed of intention. Gently holding it there, like you're holding a seed. Just gently hold it there. Reflect on it, hold it, focus in on it. Like you're looking at a tiny little seed that's already growing. It's already got those little green leaves coming up. It's already sending that root down. You can feel it already happening. It's present, it's right now, it's happening. Hold it. And release gently and breathe out. Let's do 2 more breaths on the in-breath hold like this. So you're bringing all of you into alignment on the in-breath hold. The guts, the pelvis, the belly, the head, Yes, you're connecting down into the earth and up into the sky through this vertical alignment and bringing all of that in balance and integration into that intention. Gently holding it, nourishing it. It's positive, it's present, it's happening right now. It's specific, it's clear, it's memorable. It's in alignment, inside and outside. And at some point in time, we should join together on a retreat or something like that and begin to really create something truly wonderful, which we are already doing anyway, but in the physical presence of resonance, it makes it even more powerful. Beautiful. So at the end of this next breath, we're going to change it, just relax the breath for a moment. And next breath, full deep inhale, slow and steady, finding the nectar in the breath. And this time straight into the out breath. Straight into the out breath. Out breath, out breath, out breath, and hold the out breath. Hold the out breath out of the body. Now, check out there, see how the out breath holds, see what it feels like. Again, hold that out breath hold for as long as you can comfortably hold it. And if you want to, again, if it feels right, check in if it feels right. Yeah? Plant that seed of attention at the out breath hold. Check in for the alignment. In the environment, in the cosmos, out to the cosmos, the brain, the heart, the belly, and down into the earth. This alignment internally and externally. And then into the in-breath from there. Make sure the transition from the breath hold into the in-breath is gentle and smooth. So if you overhold, you're going to get a grubby transition. It's going to feel a bit panicky. So stay out of the panic. You've got plenty of time to practice. This is a practice for the next 40, 50 years. Plenty of time. I've been working with breathwork for 40 years, and I will continue until the day I die. And I pray my last breaths are conscious too. But we'll find out. So, we're working with the out breath hold another couple of times now like this. Okay, very good. And after the next round, just complete at the end of the exhale with a gentle inhale. And take a few breaths, just relaxed, easy breath. Relaxed, easy belly breath if you can. Let the belly expand to soften down to a belly breath. You could even take a butterfly inhale, which is where the breath comes in slowly. A sense of sighing on the out breath. Great stuff. Now, some of you will have found that the in-breath hold felt sweeter than the out-breath hold and the other way around. That's the way of things. And again, we talked a little bit about stress and trauma, because stress and trauma is held in the body by the respiratory muscles initially. So if you think of a difficult situation again that you may have been in the past, when you were in that situation, on many occasions when we do that, we tend to use the respiratory muscles to hold ourselves, and we squeeze the respiratory muscles. And that, if you go into that feeling, you'll notice how you do that. And it can be done on an out breath or an in breath hold, but it'll be a breath hold that we manage those complexities with. Many of us, if we had an adverse childhood situation in which we grew up, then we'll have learned to manage our emotions with breath holding. So one of the things about breath holding is when we start to get into it, we can get a release of emotion. We can get, and breath work per se, we can get a release of quite strong emotions that can come up that we then have to learn how to work with, right? So there's a role there, if that comes up for you, finding somebody who's extremely competent as a therapist, who understands breath work, who understands psychotherapeutic process, and can enable you to move through that and find greater optimal function and grace. And if you need help finding one of those, I can put you in touch with a couple of people. I could help you with that, but there are other people I know who could help you as well. So let me know if you need that. You can message me and contact me. Great stuff. Now then, because we do so much emotional work with the breath hold, I mean, this, you put your belly, the soft, vulnerable belly, yeah, the face is facing forward into the world. This ventral surface is vulnerable, and we walk into the world like that. We've evolved to live in small groups of about 100 to 150 people, and we live in great big cities. Of what, 500,000 people, 2 million, 3 million, 9 million, 10 million people. So most of the people we see then are strangers. We don't know their faces, in other words. So our brain automatically, the amygdala fires up and checks if that person is a threat. At a subconscious level, it's going flicker, flicker, flicker. Is this person a threat? Next person, is this person a threat? Is this person a threat? Is this person a threat? So our nervous system is living in this slight state of, should we say, complexity. And that's manifest in the body. So we need some way of clearing that out of the system. And we have some strategies around this. So the next practice we're going to look at, we're going to start increasing the length of the breath holds now. So we need to know how to release the breath hold. So the first thing is, how do you release a breath hold intelligently? Now, if we release the breath hold with panic, then we're entraining panic into our nervous system. We're teaching the nervous system that that is a sensible thing to do. And that's not a sensible thing to do. So we're not going to do that. So whenever we start holding the breath for longer, I'm going to give you 3 ways to release the breath, three elements of the breath hold release, I beg your pardon. Okay. The first one is, whatever muscles you're using to hold the breath, whether it's the in-breath hold or an out-breath hold, you release those muscles consciously. So the first one, there's a conscious release of the musculature. Okay. The second one is a mental, or psycho-emotional release, relaxation through the whole body. You're scanning, checking the body, and relaxing everything. So it's a conscious relaxation, and that is matched with a smile. So you get a conscious relaxation and smile. And the third element, is a conscious inhale or exhale, which means we spread the nostrils for the inhale and breathe in consciously. Or if we've got an in-breath hold, then we relax, smile, and breathe out through the nose consciously. Long and slow, finding the nectar on the breath. So that's 3 elements to the release. I'll go through them again. It's the muscular relaxation of any work that's being done, number 1. Number 2 is a conscious flooding of the system with relaxation from the mind down, right? And that is matched with a smile. So it's a relaxation and a smile. Smile is so important, big smile. And the third element of that, is a conscious inhale or exhale. Okay, so that's how we release longer breath holds, and that is so important because that entrains peace, grace, goodness, relaxation, and joy into the system instead of panic. You get the sense of that, why it's so important. Great. Now then, I'm speeding through this because we've only got 45 minutes this morning, so I hope you can stay with me. All right, we've only got 45 minutes. If you want more time, we can work out more time. Like I said, we can do webinars on relaxation. We can do lots of really, really good stuff, right? We've also got some online breath courses coming up that we're going to release in the next month or 2, which are going to have loads and loads and loads of information and good practice in there. But that's just aside for a moment, okay? So, right, how do we energetically, now we talked about emotion and breath holding being so important, okay? So, one of the key elements, the diaphragm, the big respiratory muscle that sits here in the chest. I'm just going to here. The diaphragm here is this muscle that sits underneath these ribs here. In here. You can get your fingers in on the diaphragm there and feel into it. Yeah. And this muscle, like any muscle in the body, any muscle in the body has a range of function, okay? So if we squeeze an arm muscle, when it's squeezed, for example, it should be fairly strong. It should be working there, yeah? But then when we release it, release it, release it, release it, release it, at the end of that work, it should be rubbery and soft. So, you get soft relaxation to the muscles. There's a fashion in the gym bunny world, the muscles should always be tight. And that's a waste of energy. It's a waste of time. It's psycho-emotional, physical energy being wasted in tension. Okay, so we want the capacity to fully relax the muscles as well. So we can have long, yeah, and strong and short. So the same with the diaphragm. Now, the diaphragmatic muscle, there's one way to release it fully, and that's what we're going into now. Okay. So first things first, before we go in, put your hands around on the side of the body here and breathe into the ribs here. Breathe into those hands, and you can feel these spaces between these lower ribs opening up here. Yeah, and breathe out. And breathe in here again. Pulse it open. Hold it briefly. Hold it briefly. Feel the full feeling, and then breathe out, release. Now, because you're doing that on an inhale, the diaphragm is working, because on an in-breath, the diaphragm muscles are contracting to pull the big dome of the diaphragm down. They're working, all right? So that in-breath, those muscles are working. And pulse it open now. External intercostal muscles working here, and the diaphragmatic muscles working here, and muscles in your throat, the scalenes are also working. But yeah, and then breathe out, release. Okay. So to get the diaphragm to fully release, we've got to do that on an exhale, because on an exhale, the diaphragm muscles switch off. So this is a classic yoga practice called Uddiyana Bandha, right? So on this one, yeah, if you take a couple of belly breaths first. And then breathe out and push the breath out. You're pushing the breath right out the body. These muscles here squeeze in. Yeah, squeezing these tummy muscles in like you did on the held out breath before. Hold that breath out. Then you're going to try and switch these muscles on. The muscles between the ribs, the external intercostals. And so you hold breath out and free that diaphragm. You can actually get your fingers in there to massage into the diaphragm as well. It can be really nice to do that. Okay, it can be really good to do that. But you can open that diaphragm up, and that is the place where we can start to liberate the diaphragm. We can liberate it and start to remove any emotional, psycho-emotional, stressy debris from the system that's held in muscle tension and fascial adhesion and, yeah, complex patterning in the system. Great. Okay. Now we're going to go back into that. So when we're working with energetic holding in that system, one of the things we do in a sort of classical yoga practice is lift the pelvic floor gently, the front and middle of the pelvic floor squeezing up. Then we come into that out breath hold, pushing the belly out, opening the ribs up as best we can. And to contain that sense of energetic containment, to draw in, lengthen the top of the back of the neck, lengthen the back of the neck and wiggle the neck a little bit, get a sense of snaky neck, yeah? And then curl the chin down towards the sternum, the sternal notch here, and then suck it up a little bit. And I'll talk about that in a minute, because that presses up on the carotid sinuses up in here, and there's a lot goes on there. There's a blood pressure measurement, oxygen is being measured there as well, and further up in the brain you get carbon dioxide levels being measured, so the blood gases are being checked out in there, right? So we could squeeze here, we're affecting blood pressure measurement and other things in the body as well, and the breath holding. And when we're going to hold the breath out, that's going to affect the way carbon dioxide is registered in the brain and the way oxygen is being measured in the carotid sinuses as well. Okay, so a lot of things are being changed in the breath hold, and I'll come into a little bit more about that in a minute. Okay, got 15 minutes left this before we go Q&A, so I'll cover a little bit of that terrain in a minute. But right now, take a deep in breath. like we did from the pelvic floor, opening up the whole structure of the body now. So we want that whole three-part breathing. And breath out, ribs closing, belly drawing in, base muscles of the belly sucking in. Draw the front and middle of the pelvic floor inwards and upwards and breathe in. Belly opening, front side back. Ribs opening, front side back. Upper chest opening, front side back. Full deep inhale. Lengthen the back of the neck. And breathe out, breathing out, breathing out, breathing out. Obviously, we could do either a breath hold in or a breath hold out here. But we're going to do a breath hold out first. So next one, breath hold in. And breathe out. Take all the breath out, squeeze the breath out, empty out, pelvic floor and up, tummy in, open those ribs as wide as you can. Yeah. Get that diaphragm released and open, lengthen the back of the neck, chin down to chest. Hold the breath out of the body. Plant the seed of intention into your mind. Use your hands to make that little signal. Visualize the symbol in your mind and your heart. Get that, cultivate that full alignment we're talking about between the centers. Hold that now. Hold that alignment gently. Hold that breath out. And hold the breath out for as long as you can comfortably hold. Tomorrow we're going to go into really stretching the breath into the breath hold. But right now, go for as long as you can comfortably hold. Really hold it out. See how far you can go with this. And when you're ready to release, remember, we've got three things to do. You've got to release the muscles first of all. Release the muscles first. Second, flood the system with relaxation and smile, a big smile. And third, conscious inhale. So no hungry breath. We're going to do a conscious, relaxed, joyous, spacious inhale. And as you're doing, the seeds of intention have been planted deep into the subconscious mind, calling in all parts of you, into the dance of bringing this into manifestation. So when you've breathed in, take another couple of long, slow, deep breaths. And let's do one more out breath hold like this. Now, one of my teachers used to say, before chanting for world peace, make sure the practices work. So get a sense of this seed of intention actually coming to fruition. It's really good to work with something quite simple then, first of all, because then you know that the practices work, and then you can put it to some greater purpose. And you have the power of your belief behind it then. By belief there, I mean experiential belief. That's called Shraddha in Sanskrit, which means experiential belief. It's not just a belief concocted from a few mind stories and a desire for something to be different. It's actually a belief that's based in experience. So it's experiential belief, Shraddha. Great. Wonderful. So, let's take one more in-breath hold just to finish. Get that belly breath. Full deep inhale. The whole body again, all the parts of the body, the base of the belly, the lower ribs, the upper ribs opening with that inhale now. Tongue behind the top teeth. Squeeze the front and middle of the pelvic floor. Gently pulse it. Don't overdo it. Drop the chin slightly. Lengthen the back of the neck. Feel the back of the neck opening up here. We'll talk about the sacral pump and the cranial pump another time, but right now, just open that up gently. Hold that breath in the body and squeeze the tummy very slightly in, so you're gently compressing the intestines. That's really good for your microbiome anyway. It's good for your intestines. Get a gentle pressure there. Doesn't hurt them at all. Just gentle. We're talking gentle. Gentle but clear. Hold that breath in the body now and replant that seed of intention another time. And again, hold the breath in the body this time for as long as feels good. Really go for it. Really go for it. Relax into it. Remember yesterday I talked about relaxation being the very, very key of breath holding. So you're just relaxing into it. Eventually you're going to be able to relax for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, more, 4 minutes. And just relax into that. Relax into the depths of stillness, peace that arises in that space. And then carry that into your life. Now, one of the things that happens in breath holding, it goes all the way back to swampfish, as I understand it. We've got some biology, ancient biology, that takes us way back to when we were swampfish, living on the edges of some salty marsh before we climbed out onto the land. And in those places, there was often a lack of oxygen in the water. And we have some biology from then. And it seems that in those hypoxic, that's low oxygen, in those hypoxic situations, there are things that happen. And yesterday I mentioned the word hormesis, yeah, which is the resilience that comes from that. Now, intermittent hypoxia is it can be a disease. So you find people who have sleep apnea, which is dysfunctional, and so people are having hypoxia 5 to 100 times per hour, and that leads to all sorts of problems in their system, heart problems, all sorts of things. And then there's therapeutic intermittent hypoxia, which is where we have a short period of low oxygen levels, followed by a short period of normal or slightly higher oxygen levels. And that intermittent change, periodization in that way, seems to enable an awful lot of positive benefits. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those now. One of them is an enhancement of neuroplasticity. So it appears that the oxygen levels, when they're measured in the brain, in the carotid, when they drop slightly, it seems to be that serotonin is released, and that serotonin itself then has a function in terms of respiratory nerve plasticity. So the nerves to the phrenic nerve and the nerves to the respiratory structures, the muscles, they seem to become more powerful, which is what you'd expect of a swampfish in a murky water, which can't find oxygen. Then it generates more power to those nerves to hang out and wait for the oxygen. And we've got some of those results. So it makes our breath stronger after that point. Okay, so we build the power in the respiratory neurology and in the muscles from breath holding. Not only that, there are many, many other benefits, it appears. Okay, so the changes in the tissue level of the oxygen, yeah, and this happens through altitude and exercise as well. Of course, if we go up mountains or if we run for long distances or whatever, that they also change. It appears to alter the regulatory expression of genes. Yeah, it alters cell metabolism. It controls fundamental development, regeneration and defense processes. It's got so many benefits, it's untrue. It also includes angiogenesis, that's construction of stronger heart muscle, yeah? And it regulates inflammation in the system. It down-regulates inflammation in the system. So if we've got inflammatory processes in the system, it down-regulates those. And we know that these pathways from this intermittent hypoxia affect at least 300 genes. There's so much going on, it's untrue. And the basic overlying story is that these sublethal stressors, yeah, make the brain fight back. They're perfect. They make the brain switch on and say, okay, I'm ready. What are we going to do here? Well, they fight back. Excuse me. It seeds balance and reaps positive benefits on well-being. It's an amazing thing to engage in, but you have to know how to do it right. So some of these sessions are about how to get into this in a powerful, good way. All right, great stuff. Like I said yesterday, hormesis is that's Hornesis, I spelled it yesterday, is the bioprotective function of stressors leading to resilience and well-being. The bioprotective function of stressors leading to resilience and well-being. The same comes from sensible fasting. You know, we stress the system out a bit and it gets stronger. It bounces back. If we do it too much, it hurts. right? So anyway, the breath holding up regulates respiratory motor plasticity, makes everything stronger. And we found out that it may be used to restore motor function. If somebody's had a stroke, it may be beneficial. We haven't done enough research on this. There's loads of research to come into this yet. It may also be, and some people use it to improve athletic function. Yeah. Now, interestingly, it's used in yoga. So it can also improve athletic function. But there's more research to be done on that. The question is, what is the hypoxic dose? What is the hypoxic dose? When, how, and how often? And the answer is not too long. Okay, like I said, sleep apnea is dysfunctional. So it appears to be at the moment, and again, this is limited research on this at the moment, is that between 1 and 3 times a day, short periods of time, yeah, it's up to about 15 repetitions, appears to be doable in terms of creating the benefits that we want. So this morning you've done about maybe 10 to 12 short breath holds, and you're already reaping the benefits of this process of changing the way your cells metabolize, changing the function in your body, and changing the way your brain works. And as you're holding the breath and breathing like this, all this clarity and information is flying up to the brain, changing the way you see the world, and going to make your day even better than it was before. So the plan is to carry that now into the day and make it utterly amazing. Take a breath. If you're not already doing, stay with the conscious breath as I'm talking. Breathe everything I've said in. You don't have to remember it. You're going to have access to this video. Yeah. Breathe in, long, slow, full breath now. We've got some great strategies on the upcoming breath courses we're putting out there. There's some great stuff you can learn, but this is a good beginning. This stuff is needed, this breath work, this conscious, powerful, integrated, systematic, conscious breath work is needed in the world. So many countries, a quarter of the people in the country are on antidepressants, or more. It's rising, it's risen in the COVID situation. Antidepressants, anxiety medicine. Yeah. Happy pills, as one of my friends called them. So many people. And we've got natural, beautiful ways of regulating our own system. When we hold the breath, we get things like BDNF, that's brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and VEGF, vascular endothelial growth factor. Yeah? And those change the way blood systems work. They change the way that nerves grow through breath holding. Another thing is EPO, erythropoietin, which is another hormone that's released. And what that does is increase the number of red blood cells in your body, so you get better oxygenation in the system. You get the same thing from climbing up mountains. You can do it through breath holding. So when you go into breath holding, you get an increase in erythropoietin being released into the body, and an increase in the number of red blood cells circulating in your system, carrying oxygen down to those cells. Isn't that wonderful? And that's all from doing a short session of breath holding. Now, we can do some different breath work another time. We can focus on other things. And like I said, we've got more courses coming up for you, but that is a really good start. Just to let you know that in the Soviet Union, and again, there's not enough evidence on this yet, in the Soviet Union, they used intermittent hypoxia to treat depression. They've used it to treat, to work with improved learning and memory. It's possible ancillary treatment for stroke, for trauma, for anxiety. I've used breath work and breath holding as part of a systematic strategy for working with complex PTSD. So again, it could be a really good part of those kind of protocols. So I really want anything you can do to help us get this out in the world, anything you can do to help us get this into the medical domain where we can start using these practices which do not have side effects. Brilliant, awesome, good, fantastic. Take a breath. I hope you feel my passion and my excitement. After doing these practices for 40 years, I'm still at awe, in wonder and excited by these practices. They are amazing, life-changing, life-saving practices. Beautiful. Take a good breath. So it's time for questions and answers now. I hope that was a helpful session. Thank you. Anybody got any questions and answers? We can deal with that now. Okay, we've got a few minutes to go into that, and I can answer them live. We have no questions this morning. Good. Then we can sit and breathe some more then. That's really good, isn't it? Oh yes, Siobhan's got a question. What's your question, Siobhan? Oh, sorry. Ah, thank you. I found the questions now. Ed, you're asking, what is air hanger? It's air hunger, Hunger, hunger. So it's that feeling where we're breathless and we're desperate for air, okay? And what we're trying to do is we're trying to manage that space. We're trying to come close to the edge of the air hunger, yeah? And then control it, manage it. So gradually increasing our capacity to go into that state and relax the brainstem ultimately. Relax the brainstem. Okay, that's air hunger. Gus, you're saying, what's the third element? Muscle relax. Okay, great. I'll go through those. The elements of release again are muscle relaxation. Because if you're breath holding, obviously muscles are being used. So we're going to relax those muscles first. That's number one. The second one is you're going to consciously create a state of relaxation in your system. You're going to tell your body and your mind and everything in the system, that's all of you, to relax. You're going relax, and you're smiling to prove it. Yeah, because emotions are, I don't know, 10, 30% muscular. Yeah, so we're using that smile and smiling down through the whole system to relax everything. Got another breath practice on that. You can find it on the website, by the way. But that's the second part. And the third part is the conscious inhale or exhale. So if you're breathing in, if you're doing an out breath hold, you're going to spread the nostrils wide and breathe in. If you're doing an in breath hold, you're going to relax and consciously, slowly breathe out and find the nectar in that next breath rather than the panic. So staying out of air and going to relaxation. So those are three elements of a conscious release on the breath hold. Thank you. Sophia, can you correct sleep apnea? Of course you can. You can correct anything. Yeah. The problem is that, you know, everything in the system, if there's imbalance in the system, when we return to balance, there's self-healing that occurs. Right? The system homeostasis is the name for everything in the system staying in balance. Illness is basically where something goes out of balance. So when we do methods and practices, yeah, that bring things back to balance, they self-regulate again. Right? Now, there are medical treatments for sleep apnea, wearing oxygen masks and all sorts of things, and they may be helpful for extreme cases. But of course, we can regulate using pranayama. We can start, because what we know is that when we change the way we breathe in our breath practices, the brain entrainment of breath changes. Regulate breathing is entrained in the brain. It's not fixed forever. It changes. So when that happens, what we can get there is we can start to get it changing in the sleep as well. So it changes in sleep. We've got evidence behind that too. All right, so I hope that's a helpful answer, Sophia. Thank you. Verity, what is more effective for an out breath? I'm not sure what that question means. Effective for an out breath or an in breath hold. Verity, you have to clarify that question for me a little bit more. I'm not quite sure what that means. Okay. Abigail, I mentioned in another session that I used to do a lot of running. Yes, I did. I used to love running. I used to run a lot to regulate my nervous system. I recommend running for fun. Yeah, I think people run for a lot of the wrong reasons sometimes. I think people sometimes run to lose weight, and I see people running with collapsed or pronated insteps, and their hips are at the wrong angle, or they're running in strange ways, or they're carrying too much weight and they're pounding the pavements in heavy. You know, that's probably not good for the body, actually. And if you're not running for fun because you love it, why do it? So I think running is for fun. And if you're going to run for fun and get better at it, then it's really good to breathe in through the nose every single breath and breathe out through the nose as much as you can. And if you're driving really hard, then breathe out through the mouth, but stay breathing in through the nose and build up the running capacity, yeah, through nose breathing. So let the breathing control the speed and the power of which you run, not the mind domination over the body. It's one of the problems we do with exercise. We dominate the body, and again, running for the wrong reasons is a problem. So if you like running, then do it for nervous system. It's going to regulate your nervous system. If you like walking on the mountainsides, or if you like walking through the woods, or if you like swimming, then do that. So do what's passionate. Okay, running's great. I used to absolutely love it. Kamran, hello Kamran, good to see you again in this. How can I be sure I'm lifting the pelvic floor at the moment? I'm just pulling in my belly. Okay, Kamran. That's a one-to-one or an ongoing dynamic we can look at. Like, how can you sure? You can't be sure except through practice and experience. So there are practices that I can show you. On the Embody Evolution community, we've covered some of that domain, and there are some films up on the community where you can access some of that information. There are whole practices there, lasting 90 minutes or so, where you can get into learning how to do that. Right now, I haven't got the time to show you that one, but we can do that. So contact me outside of this webinar on a one-to-one, or come and join the Embody Evolution community, and we can start looking at that and covering that terrain. Okay. Sorry, I can't answer that more fully now, but yes, it can be done. You can get sure that you're doing it. Katrin, hello, Katrin. You say you're struggling with going straight into the next breath hold. Yes, then take extra breaths in the middle, and it's practice. It's practice, Katrin. Again, it's all practice. So yes, take extra breaths in between is fine for now. Okay. Hello, Josie. Good morning. Can I talk about breath practice at different times of the day? I in a full tummy or during moon time? Yes, I'll do a little bit of that. Certainly we can. Breath practice at different times in the day. I think breath practice is best done in terms of doing breath holding, and depending on what breath practices you're doing, and there are so many breath practices. Like I said, we're releasing some courses where there are many, many different practices, and you can start to create a lifestyle of conscious breathing. Yeah, and I mean that, I mean a whole lifestyle around it, okay? And come and join us on the Embody Evolution community, and there's even more there too as well, by the way. But yes, moon time is really special. So menstruation time is powerful. And you want to be working not with upward energy in that, but with a relaxing breath. So belly breathing could be good. There are other really good practices. Some of the deep, slow, down-regulating breaths could be fantastic, both premenstrually and menstrually. But the upward squeeze of breath holding would be best avoided during menstruation for a start, and it's best avoided when you've got a full belly or when you're pregnant. So that's why we do 3 formal practices of breath work. That's why you're doing sitting, a particular practice and breath holding in the morning, before lunchtime, before you eat, and before you go to bed. And those 3 times, then you can get into deeper practices. But all the way when you're practicing, you're listening and feeling for the good feelings, for the nectar, for the deep quality of peace, stillness, spaciousness in the breath as you're practicing, all right? And there are so many different breath practices that you can do. One of my teachers many years ago, may she be utterly blessed, amazing woman, she taught me to consciously pay attention to the breath every single breath of the day. Now, it took me 20 years, or actually slightly more than that, before that became a part of my regular breath life. And of course, once you've got that kind of awareness, the problem is you can't undo it. Once you're aware of something, you can't undo the awareness. So if that feels like a practice for you, start doing that. Start just being conscious of the breath during the course of the day. Start just a little bit of mindfulness of breathing. So if you've got a moment in the day, just practice a few moments of just bringing attention to the breath, mindfulness of breathing. And these micro practices, and by the way, I've got a book on my website called Micro Practices, The Art of Presence, which is a wonderful little book. You can access that too. And that's got a lot in there. Those micro practices are crucial for weaving what you're learning, integrating the insights and realizations that arrive into daily life. And they're a really beautiful thing to do. So I hope that answers some of that question, Josie. Ed, what do you think of the use of the mask? How can we compensate for that? The mask, the COVID mask, I'm assuming you're meaning that. How can we compensate for that? That's a difficult one. It's a complex one. I mean, you just breathe consciously and slowly and best as you can using the mask. Slow down a little bit, I recommend, so that you can pay attention to the breath when you're using it. It's going to increase carbon dioxide in the system. You're not going to get the same flow of O2 in because the mask is going to block a little bit of air intake. Yeah, it's a complex one, that one. So get one with a little respirator, and the N95 respirator has a way of allowing better airflow than some masks. Get as much airflow through as you can. The one with the N95 has got a filter in which you can change and wash, so it doesn't block the respiratory passages quite so much. And I think that's probably the best answer to that question. N95s, of course, are quite precious because they're used medically. So then you get ethical complications of, are you taking one away from an NHS worker who's underfunded and under-resourced? That's a good question. I'll leave you with the ethics of that, but those are the best kind of masks for doing that. Agelos, you're saying, amazing how transition from deep inhalation breath hold to deep exhalation breath hold momentarily makes you relax even more, although you're still deprived of oxygen. Practice, I guess. It is practice. Take your time with it. And again, take extra breaths. Always feel free to take extra breaths because you're learning. Your body's learning to do things differently. You're learning how to relax into the hormesis, into the stress, into those, you're learning how to relax into that and find the relaxation in that space. And that's the deal. So it's practice and it's being gentle with yourself. That's what I'm saying about the yin approach. Just going to strong, dominating yang approach is not going to be helpful because you'll just dominate the body and then be unable to integrate it. And what we want to do is start from here and build up like a plant growing. Now think of yourself as a magnificent tree, a really magnificent tree. It starts from a seed, it grows slowly. There's huge branches that take hundreds of years to grow, and they come out and then they drop acorns or fruit onto the ground in pure beneficence. Be like that. Verity, out breath or in breath hold, what is more beneficial for oxygen? If you're going to work with, all right, the out breath hold is better in terms of releasing the diaphragm. So it's a necessary one to do. It's very necessary. It's harder to do in many ways because you haven't got so much oxygen in the lungs to hold it, right? And everything feels a bit squeezed and a bit tighter. So the in-breath hold, when you're holding the breath in, you're going to have more oxygen in the lungs, right? To circulate through on the blood. So it's going to be easier to hold the breath for longer, right? So that's two answers to that question. One is, well, the answer to me, of course, like so many questions, is it depends. It depends on what you're using the breath hold for, okay, and how you're relating to the breath hold. So the breath hold out is better for many things, but one of the things it's better for is releasing the diaphragm, emotional debris, getting that kind of clarity, right? So that's better for that. All right, Nikki Reese, hello there, Nikki, good morning. Could you talk about the carbon dioxide level tolerance? Is it on inhale or exhale retentions? That's on both, ultimately. It takes a bit longer to reach it on the in-breath hold because you've still got residual oxygen in the lungs. But the carbon dioxide level tolerance you're going to reach if you hold the breath for long enough, yeah, you're going to get into that experience of the body wanting to breathe in and you relaxing into that, the body calling for an in-breath. You'll feel it. You'll feel the diaphragm beginning to kick. It'll go and start to kick off. There'll be a demand from the body to breathe in, and you're relaxing into that demand as much as possible. And it's in that space at the edge where you're relaxing into that demand and then come out of it consciously with those three elements of the breath hold release, remember, and then you're increasing that carbon dioxide resilience, okay? Agelos, does cross-legged position help because you reduce the volume of active blood circulation? It probably does. If you've got blood pooled in the legs because the legs are on a chair, it's probably going to be more complicated. There are other elements of cross-legged position, like the particular kind of seat that we sit in. So there are body positions which facilitate breath holding much more effectively. Again, I don't have space to go into that, but we will cover that in the Body Evolution community. But we're also covering that on some breath courses we're releasing later on. So we've got a lot on that one, but that's a really good question. It does help, okay? And again, there are particular cross-legged positions which work better than others as well. Ed, is it bad the CO2 in the system with the mask? I mean, okay, CO2 is in the system is neither good nor bad, all right? We need an amount of CO2 in the system for acid alkali balance. It's absolutely crucial to have CO2 in the blood at the right amount, right? It's just that when we've got CO2 trying to come out of the lungs into the air and it's blocked slightly by a mask, it's going to increase the amount of pooled CO2 in the lungs, just very slightly. So having a time when you can take the mask off is really good. Wearing one for a long period of time would be problematic, I'm assuming, okay? And ultimately what we want anyway is not to have to wear masks. We want a population with strong immune systems. The people who seem to be getting really hurt by COVID are people who have compromised immune function. So ideally, we'll be growing a population with improved immune function, which means people who move well, people who breathe well, people who eat well. Yeah, so they're not overeating, they're not eating too much sugar, they're not cultivating complex difficulties of imbalance by too much sugar, too little activity, or any of the problems that lead to a compromised immune system. So hopefully over time, over the next 100 years or so, we'll start looking not at resolving these problems when they've happened, but how to prevent them by bringing our children up in a way that enables them to understand this from an early onset and engage in those practices. We have less people with compromised immune systems. But that's a long-term vision. So, preventative medicine is better than cure. Anna, over time of practice, would this improve a feeling I have of a tight-chestedness which I relate to past stress or trauma? Yes, the answer is yes. And again, Anna, if you want to come to do a one-to-one and have a conversation with me about that, we can work through that together. I'm really up for that if you want to do that. But yes, I've used these practices a lot for people with, including myself, by the way, I had adverse childhood situations I've had to work through. I think if I hadn't come across these breath practices and yoga and other things like that, I would have ended up possibly in prison, possibly in a gutter somewhere as an alcoholic, something of that kind. I had a lot to work through, a lot. So that these practices, I know from my own experience, work really well. And I've worked with a lot of other people who've had CPTSD and stress, burnout, and so on, and help people to move those through and re-regulate, rebalance the system through these practices. And ultimately, that's what we're looking at here, is finding a new balance for our lives, a new sense of center, a new sense of purpose, and a new sense of power, how we step forward into each and every day. Right, beautiful. Thank you for all coming today. Thank you ever so much indeed. It's been a beautiful session. I hope you got lots out of that. And I'll see you tomorrow morning. Have a beautiful day. Bye-bye now.